And I was asking if there were any kind of questions about anything that we've talked about or that you came across in your reading or whatever. You're just exceptionally bright students. That's good. But feel free, even while I'm talking, if you have a question, I may not be clear enough with something I'm saying, and so feel free. So I'm hoping you make connections with students this week. Jim, how'd you make out?
Yeah, I got a hold of Carlos. We spoke on the phone.
Yeah.
For a bit, and we're going to actually have our first meeting tomorrow evening. We decided to do it by Zoom. It would be more convenient for him, at least initially, to do it by a Zoom meeting. So luckily, he's an IT guy, so he set up the Zoom meeting because I've never actually done that before. So he created the link and sent it to me, and we communicate a little bit on the email and texting, but we haven't really had a chance to really talk.
So
yeah. We'll tomorrow.
What's the date of your meeting?
It's tomorrow evening. Tomorrow evening at 7. He needs to do night. He's works all day, so evenings are better for him.
Yeah, he's part of this great Brazilian contingent that's up here from Brazil.
Yeah.
We have a number of these fellows being tutored. So I think you'll find him very engaging, and it will be a nice experience for both of you. His level of English was good?
Yeah, actually quite good. He's been here for 2 years, so he's taking classes. He's taken classes there before, so he's not. I mean, I haven't got all the details of what he's done and how much he knows.
Yeah.
But, sounded, we didn't have any trouble communicating, so.
So that's half the battle anyway. Well, good. That's nice. I'll be glad to have you for a tutor, I'm sure.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, they get together a lot as a Brazilian community. They know each other's wives and husbands and whatever, and just do a lot of different kinds of things together. But that's very supportive for all of them. It's what goes on when people go to another country, and whether it's Brazilians or, Colombians coming to this country, we do the same thing when we go to wherever. We find somebody who's American or at least English and who speaks good English and shares our same culture and belief. So it's nice, and especially when you're really new and don't know your way around. So you're off to a good start. You're going to start on the 15th. Okay. But, Margaret, how about you? Who do you have?
Oh, okay. I'm terrible with names, especially.
Yes, and that's a tough name, isn't it?
Yeah. Gay. Oh, I'm learning the name, but that's the least of my problems. So we're meeting because she said that she learned about the literacy center from the library.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a car right now because my car is being painted, and I can walk to the library. That seemed like a good place to meet.
Good.
We're meeting this Thursday. I was pleasantly surprised that I would say, I sent an email greeting, and we went back and forth a little bit, but I was so surprised at how quickly she could get back to me and understood what I was saying.
Yes, good.
It's nice. I also texted my next door neighbor, who's also Indian, and said, just wanted to let you know I'm doing this. And my first student is Indian, which I thought he would be. And of course, I got a very, a cool with an exclamation point back. He said, oh, if she speaks, her native tongue is Tamil, Tamil.
Yeah, and she does.
South of India.
Yeah.
So I'm going to meet her on Thursday, and we'll see how it goes. But it's been a nice experience so far.
Good. Yeah, and she does speak Tamil.
Yeah.
Yes, and he does too, with what you're saying. You broke up a little bit there.
He knows that it's in the south of India. I'm not sure where in India it's from. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how she got here.
Yeah.
Whether she has a supportive community.
But I thought it was interesting because I called the library before I emailed her, and told them what I'd like to do, and did they have a good spot in the library. And they said because of their recent renovation, the best they could offer us was behind plexiglass, that they've just done a renovation. I don't know, I'm sure you know.
That the library's open. I know they're just coming back into,
Oh, yeah. So they told me that I could not reserve the space. So I asked them what time they open. They open at 10 a.m. And I thought if we do it right at 10 a.m. and it works for the student, that's probably our most likely option for success to have a place. So we'll see. It's this
okay, so
Thursday.
it's coming Thursday. And you're meeting tomorrow, right, Jim?
Yeah,
What's
tomorrow,
today, Monday?
tomorrow evening, correct.
Okay, so you're Thursday. Okay. But then, have you figured out how to say her name yet? Margaret?
I'm going to,
Looks-
my father was in real estate for 50 years, and he would always say, if he couldn't get a name, he would say, well, how do you spell that? And
It'll be interesting to hear it said at any event.
Yeah.
So does she talk at all about what she's interested in learning or?
not yet,
Yeah.
but we'll talk on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's okay. I didn't know if you got into that or not. Okay, so you're meeting at the library. Good. Let's get that down here. We'll have to try to decide. Excuse me just a minute while I do that. You know what level book to give you for her. You know, talk with her a little bit yet, of course, and see what's what. Now, we did talk about this Challenger series. Jim, if you're going to Zoom it, I don't know how we're going to do that. You'll probably meet him at some point in person.
Yes.
Do you know where he lives? Isn't that hard? But in any event, maybe you could drop off a book once you talk to him, and we can try to assess where he's at.
Yeah.
Because they get a book to keep, and you borrow one from us to use. So at least once a month, we're asking you to try to incorporate a lesson from the book. And I think I said before, we're trying to assess progress, which can be really, really difficult. Obviously, when somebody's very basic, you can see progress. But when somebody's an intermediate or even a high level, even they can't tell what they've learned, and it can be very difficult for you as well. But if you can say, we started in book 4, lesson 1, and 6 months later, you're at, week 15 or something in book 4, well, you know that they've made progress because everything is progressively more difficult. So, and the students really like this book and the series, and it really does a lot of different aspects of English. I think, again, I touched on, but I just say it again. You get overwhelmed with all the information that you get here. There's reading comprehension in it. Some might have some crossword puzzles, which are helpful. True, false, making adverbs out of adjectives as a classic. Fill in the blanks. So there's just a lot of different kinds of activity. It goes up to a very high level and becomes a sense of accomplishment. And lets them know too that they are progressing. I'm not sure what we could do for you, Hamatsu, but you do have, I'm sure, a number of things available to you because you have been teaching ESL students. Is that true? Hamatsu.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah,
Can
it's
you
okay.
come again? I didn't catch
I'm
that.
just saying that we cannot easily give you access to this, obviously, and you have tutored before, so
Yes.
your assessment skills may be better than most of ours even. So anyway, I'm sure you'll find a way.
Yes, Tammy did send me some links to even the Challenger series,
Okay,
but
so good.
I'm yet to actually click on it to see whether I can access it. But I do have some resources that I can use.
Yes. So you'll have access to some things and the stuff on the computer. When all else fails, go online, ESL.
She has difficulty, say maybe at work, in communicating with her patients.
Mhm.
You know, if they complain, she really can't. We did also go over the Oxford Pictionary. I did. The library there did have one with English and the Haitian Creole,
Really?
and I had checked it out, and what is I checked it back in, and she checked it out because she was very interested in the book.
Yes.
So so she has something for things in the book, you know, some
Good.
different
Oh,
things.
good. Yeah, and
So
as
we're
a
going to
nurse,
meet again this week. I'm sorry.
yeah, I was thinking as a nurse, I mean, you could probably do some role playing of with patient complaints and appropriate responses. You know, you could think about that. You'd be the
Yeah.
patient. I don't feel good. Well, what's the matter? Oh, my back hurts. Well, where does it hurt? You know, I'm too hard to tell you, but you know, something like that could be very useful with her.
Right. Yeah. It just as I'm reading, I'm finding like, gee, does she know all the body parts in English? You know.
Yes, I mean,
so these
don't
things will
assume-
have to be an ongoing assessment.
Of
I
course.
think. And
Yeah, good.
So, but we'll touch on a lot of these
I'm
things.
sure. This looks like a match made in heaven. We're with a student who's a CNA, certified nursing assistant, and wanting to better herself. So I see that she hasn't completed high school from the looks of it, and that could be a problem for going on with her education. But in any event, let's get her with a certified nurse's aide. You know, you can check with American Cancer Association. I'm not sure if I'm right about the Red Cross. I know when I had somebody staying with me and they wanted to become a nurse's aide, they were offering a course free. Now, that was 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Actually, I did look on their site, and they don't have anything right now.
No, okay.
Yeah, there are a few places that have them, and yes, the state does requirements for those, you know, programs that do teach it. So I don't know if she picked just something online or something that fits the requirements for this state, because
Yes.
we also made an appointment through the librarian at the DMV for her to change her driver's license from one state to this state.
So she does drive. So that's nice. She's got some transport. So good. Well, you're off
Yes.
to a real good start. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, those rooms at Stratford, they are a little bit small. If you're uncomfortable at all because of their smallness, you know, you could do it outside. You could probably do it at a table, or there's not a lot of people. Right now, there may not be a lot of clientele in there. So, you know, you might do some variation on that. But find your way. If you're comfortable and she's comfortable, because you're not even 6 feet apart. I know I've used those rooms extensively, but they're very nice, you know.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
so you guys are off to a decent start. This is nice. So you're still trying to assess goals with her, are you?
Well, basically, assess goals, and her goals is at this time, I believe, is to get proper certification so she can
That's her
continue
primary.
to work, because I believe she did say that they had it was temporary. They allowed it during the pandemic,
Uh-huh.
so they relaxed a lot of the rules during that time. So, but I'm not familiar with what all the requirements are
Yeah.
or how long those temporary rules are going to be. So we'll have to look further into that for her.
Yeah, I think you know, probably during this pandemic, that nursing homes in particular may have set up programs to train people, do it fairly quickly so that they can function and, you know, be helpful, but may not have met every standard that there is. And maybe I'm wrong. I mean, they may be very fastidious about that whole thing. So anyhow, your way through. And yeah, I'm good for you that you haven't assumed that she knows all body parts by name. you're going to want to try to assess that too. So
Yes.
good. You've been very perceptive in all this. All right. Well, I'll be happy to waiting to see what turns up for all of you next week, and once you start your meetings. Did anyone do an attend a class? Sitting with Larry. At least we saw the videos, that we had, so you got a little sense of that. But did anybody get online at all or do anything? That's okay.
I had seen one with Donna for pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that was very interesting. I really didn't see any of the techniques. A lot of repeat, and she was teaching prepositions.
Oh, yes.
And I thought how she did that was good, because I thought to myself right away, how do you really teach these things? Something is on the couch or in the couch. How do you explain that? And she did it quite well. So I thought that was a valuable video to watch.
Yeah, good. That reminds me of one of my first lessons on preposition. There is a series of books. I couldn't tell you where it is right now, but there was a lemur whose name was Yamu, maybe, or Yamu, sitting by a doghouse. Yamu was next to the doghouse. Yamu was on top of the dog, inside of the doghouse, by the doghouse. So they were cute things. I mean, 2 years later, my students still remembered all those things just because it was done in such a cute little way. So there are some good things out there to references to use for teaching them. Prepositions are difficult for our students to learn, and they need to learn them in context, I think, by listening to us speak to a greater or lesser extent. Okay. One of your other assignments was to read the scenario on Celia. Did you all get to do that? Who's come from Tonga to live with her daughter, Tubo, who was recently divorced and is now going to work full time. So Celia will be running the house, helping to raise 4 children, ages 3 to 10. The children speak some Tongan, and Celia knows some basic English from her previous work. She does not drive, but lives on a bus line. Hopes she can help out with family finances, maybe by babysitting. She knows she needs a lot of help with her English. She's thrilled to have you. What might be some of her goals? And her goals are more general than specific. What might be some of the things that she'd want to be able to do?
Maybe one of the first ones would be a commitment to studying on a routine basis, like daily or a few times a week or whatever. Time commitment.
To English, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, to English.
Okay,
right.
put that in line. Okay, that gets a little bit specific, but a very important piece that you get from your students to commit to giving time to this whole operation. Okay, what else?
How may I? How about to take a course in like a Red Cross course in babysitting?
That could be useful. Yes,
that could be useful. I think
because they would not be familiar with our idea of babysitting. In Tonga, everybody drops the kids off with grandma or something, and not unlike here either. But to know what her responsibilities would be, how to get there, things to watch with the children. Again, some differences that would occur, and you may have to spell those out. You've alluded potentially to transportation. She needs to learn how to get around town because she doesn't drive. So you got a bus. I think we've touched on this kind of stuff before. What do you need to know to ride a bus?
Money.
Yeah, money. Got to know money.
The bus route, and maps and routes of the bus line.
Or you can pick one up, or you get dropped off. Again, you can probably go online for that. You might even want to hop a bus with her and see how it goes with good planning ahead of time, so you don't get stuck someplace that you're not planning on. We've also got a bunch of children there, and there's preschoolers, some of them. So with children, grandchildren, what do you think? She's going to want to be able to help them in school. And we talked about how adults lose their sense of being adults. All those basic kind of things that you want to know that husband, presumably, she would want to help her kids, so she would want to and need to learn these kinds of things so she can help them get ready for big boy and girl school. Might be a pre-school program or pre-kindergarten, kindergarten. Knowing all these kinds of sure. That's everybody's concern. It might be her daughter's concern who's working as well. And who have a good handle on English. So all those kinds of skills. She's also running the house, right? So what kinds of things you have to do when you're running the household?
The grocery shopping.
The grocery shopping, perhaps that's good. Buying clothing and things for kids, needing to learn our sizing, which is totally different from the rest of the world, which I think I've alluded to before. So that is a really great idea. It won't work obviously in all situations, especially for Zooming these days, but it is a very practical, very good thing to bring. Thank you. So that kind of thing has been done before too. So be creative. I mean, there's nothing here. I'm teaching you a few ideas of things you can do. I mean, it's all material. Typical literature in any program that's being taught to tutors. It's some of the same stuff I had 20 years ago, just modified way. So even the videos that are older, some things never change. And what was pertinent 20 years ago as a way to teach still works now, except that we have the wonder of our phones, the internet, which is a tremendous support to us in what we do. Okay, so those were some of the things. So you got to be thinking along these lines when your students are expressing their need for, what they want to learn, what their goals are. So you can try to break it down in little pieces. Okay, I need to be sure she knows money, and if her student, Eileen, she knows parts of the body. Words for a bedroom, the kinds of things that might be in a patient's room, a walker, a wheelchair, all those kinds of things. You really need to think through what it is you're doing. It'd be interesting to see where your student takes you, Jim. What it is he wants to get to know or understand better. And he might want conversation. An advanced student often just wants to talk. We'll talk more about the advanced student here today. They're just needing English conversation so they can practice their skills and get used to English, American English. Sometimes students who come to us have had extensive English classes in their own country, but sometimes it's been stilted for many good reasons. Where did their teachers study? Did they have a chance to study in America and then go back to their country and teach English? The Chinese have a very good background, but many of them have trouble, just adjusting to our way of speaking, our slang and all those kinds of things. So it can be very difficult, but at least they have the grammar and they've got a lot of words and greetings, that kinds of things in their heads. It's just a case of learning how we do it here in America. Anybody have any questions else? Any other questions with that? Okay, so you have some ideas about what you want to do. All right. How about dialogues? Anybody do their dialogue last week?
I did.
You did? Who did? Is that
I
Eileen?
did.
You did, okay. What did you take?
Oh, okay. Well, I did the a pedestrian asks directions from a sales clerk in the store to get to the nearest bus stop. So basically what I did was I answered it.
Yeah.
I answered the question, and it was basically telling her, take the escalator down to the main level of the store. That's sentence one. Walk straight down the aisle towards the main entrance. You can exit the store and turn right. Walk to the bus stop on the corner. I tried to keep it simple.
And you did, and that's good. You still want a little bit of dialogue. You might want to ask them, where are you going? You know, what bus? Are you going to Stratford or Bridgeport? Or, you know, okay, the Stratford bus, you'll take across the street. The Bridgeport bus, they, you know, just you've got to get a little, you know, interaction between the two of you. You've got the right idea, because directions aren't easy no matter what, you know, unless they just happen to be down the street from a place. But you want this back and forth, you know. Excuse me, where is the bus, ma'am? Give me an answer here, Eileen. Where is the bus?
Okay. Well, which bus are you looking for? There's one for Stratford and one for Bridgeport.
I'm trying to go to Stratford. I'm trying to go to Milford. So Milford is beyond Stratford. Okay,
Okay, well, then take the escalator down to the main level of the store. Walk straight down the aisle towards the main entrance. You can exit the store and turn right. Walk to the bus stop on the corner. That is the bus stop for Milford.
do you know what number bus it is? I mean, these are just questions that might come up. I don't mean
I don't.
Okay. No, I don't. Just don't read the sign, you know, on the bus.
Okay, great.
Good.
No, I don't. Read the sign on the
Yeah.
bus.
Right. It should tell you, or something like that, you know. Jim, Margaret? Does anybody?
Well, I could not find the dialogue. Where was that?
Well, did you come in late last week?
I think I did, yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry. Then you may have missed that. There was a whole piece in last week's work where we talk about dialogues. And I had asked everyone to do a dialogue based on some of these scenarios that were here. You know, a pedestrian asks for directions, or a young woman goes to the bank, and to write up a little dialogue that might go on. Because this dialoguing can be really important. I think what I did was, you know, a young woman is in an airport and she's just gotten off the plane and she's trying to find the ladies' room. And she goes up to somebody in a store. Excuse me, where's the ladies' room? It's down the hallway on the right. And she looks down the hallway. Is it near Starbucks? Yes. It's 2 doors down beyond Starbucks. Oh, thank you very much. I'm sure I'll find it. You're welcome. Something very simple like that. But
Sure.
this exchange back and forth. And so, you know, you might want to think of something with your student meeting a teacher. And you might want to be working on a possible dialogue together there. You know, what kind of questions might the teacher ask? What kind of questions do you have for the teacher, or for the teacher, you know, when you meet her, about how their child is doing? So you could role play some of that. And you know what, even if all those things don't come up when they meet, at least, you know, there's something about saying something. I've just always been a great believer in that. And I think someplace along the way here in this lesson, there is reference made to that even when you're writing something, that's what it was, to talk about it before you start to write. You know, you'll be expected to have your student write something for part of our program, and you might get them to talk about it first. That helps, you know, to put flesh on their thoughts, as it were. You know, it just helps, you know, to help them think out what they might want to say or do. But in any event, Hamatsu, you didn't catch anything last week either, did you, on this?
No.
Experience with using dialogues?
Well, the experience I have is actually the dialogue is usually in the textbook or in a particular resources that or I use in the class.
Uh-huh.
So what we do is we practice it together with the student, and then later on, like for example, if I'm teaching a group class, I can now put them into breakout rooms and ask them to practice the dialogue on their own.
So you would,
Then
go ahead.
then when they after that particular session ends, I now give them like a few minutes to create a dialogue on their own, whereby they can just brainstorm anything that has to do with that particular conversation or dialogue we had, and then they will just make up something.
Yeah. Nice. And that kind of follows along with the movie we had last week, or the video, where the teacher talks about, how it can be so important for this. Jim, did you do one?
Yes, I did. I did maybe a little more elaborate, but I was thinking more along the lines of, somebody who could, like intermediate, or somebody who could speak. So I did a little dialogue about like a problem with your cable bill.
Oh boy, that's a good one.
Which we all have.
We all have.
So it goes something like making a call to the cable company, and they would say, "Hello, you have reached Comcast Cable. Can I help you?" And then, "My name is Carlos. I'm having a problem with my bill." And then, "What's the problem?" "My bill has gone up $25 and I don't understand why."
Oh boy.
And then, "May I have your account number?" And then you would give the account number, and then give me a moment and I'll look it up and we'll discuss it. And that was basically the dialogue. And there's a lot of wrinkles, a lot of things that could, different ways you could go, but that's just kind of a start.
No, that's very good. Yeah, and then, you could probably add in, and I mean, you don't want a dialogue that's 29 lines long either. You want to make it something simple, like a problem with the cable company, with a landlord, your hot water isn't working,
Because I thought, things like that could happen, especially to someone who's reluctant, they're reluctant to call the cable company because they don't understand, their bill goes up, and, communication would make it difficult for them to want to discuss it and find out, why, or what happened, what changed, and then they just let it go and end up paying for it, to be, kind of taken advantage of in some cases.
Sure. That's really good. And, that might be a problem that somebody would come to you with. I've talked about how you have this wonderful lesson all figured out for this session. And, they come and they say, "I've got this letter from my son's teacher. I don't understand what the problem is." Okay. So there goes your lesson. And that's fine, because this is what the student needs right now. So you take a look at it, try to figure out what's what. Again, you might be wanting to do a little dialogue, or give her keywords to use if they're talking to the teacher. If they have to write something back, perhaps you can help. But that is the way we have to work when we're working with our students. Somebody else say something. I want to be sure.
Yes, I can hear.
Jim. Okay, everybody's online here with me. Okay. What do you think about the video?
The audio was a little difficult to hear, but you could tell by the video what she was teaching. And I've noticed, of course, the repetition and the excellent questions. And I think the students really seem to enjoy the, for lack of a better word, the bingo game, where they put the item.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a fun video showing the use of repetition. And these are really basic students. They're probably barely high beginners. But creative in all the different ways that she demonstrated a hole, a zipper, a broken zipper, a stain. I mean, she probably did that in 7 or 8 different kinds of ways. And it'll take us a while to get that good, but nevertheless, keep that in mind when you're trying to help a student that's at a lower level. Matsu, you've probably had to do a lot of this. Have you taught mostly lower level students?
I'm looking forward to teaching any beginner level, just
Okay, well,
because I prefer, I just want to know if I make any difference, because when you're teaching intermediate and high intermediate, you kind of don't know if there's any much progress. But yes, I can see it. I do see it, but it's not like not that defined.
yes, and you're saying what I've alluded to before. That's why we like this Challenger series, because once you reach a certain point with a student, you can't, even they can't tell. They just know they're speaking better, or their family says, hey, your English has gotten much better than, it was in the beginning. Well, how do you know that? I think somebody said something about, oh, they never use the future tense, I go tomorrow to the store instead of saying, I will be going, to the store tomorrow. And I think that's why the Challenger is good for them and for you and for us, so that progress can be seen. And I'm sure even with your intermediate students, if you're introducing something really new, I mean, you're using repetition because it's still got to get into their heads. Got to see it and hear it and, play a game with it if it's possible. I mean, all these things just help to get it into their heads, because we're talking about adults, not kids. The kids have this all figured out by, the first 2 or 3 expressions, well, not expressions, but pieces of information that you were using. Their minds are just sponges. It's amazing. Us oldsters have to, plod through this. Anyway, that's the way it is. Yeah, so it's really kind of a fine movie. And I'm sorry that the audio, we did seem to have a little bit of trouble with this. Would you understand most of it, though?
Oh,
On
absolutely.
the other side here, I couldn't quite tell, whether there was a problem or not. But yeah, it is good, though. Good to see it, to hear it. Okay, well, in your tutor manual, we'll go to the last part here. You have contractions. Some of these you're teaching early on, even to beginners. I am, I'm, he's, he is, she is, because that's the way we speak. And so they need to learn that fairly early into their beginning lessons, so that they can understand what's being said by other people as well. But then there's other contractions here that, they may not know at that level or have to, but, your more advanced students should be comfortable with this. And maybe I talked about this before. What'd who'd did you? You know how we say that? Where'd you go last night? What'd you do? Who'd you go with? And, there's no lessons on that. That's just the way we speak, and it can be confusing. An advanced learner probably has figured this out by now, but you might want to touch on it if you should have a student like that. Anyhow, there's a number of them there that you might even want to review with them and see if there's any confusion about it. And that next page you're talking. One of the other things here, which your student will really like, is the principal parts of irregular verbs. If you're doing it by Zoom, Jim, you might find something online that they could access, on irregular verbs. But I often, if you're doing it in person, I almost always have given them a copy of this. They really like it.
I can scan it and just email
Yeah,
it.
you're good at some of the stuff that I am. Yeah, you can scan it and send it to
That's
them.
the problem.
I wasn't thinking. I could do up under something. I believe they're both spelled the same. So these things can be confusing. And don't forget two, and two. That's one of the very first things your beginner student, and even an intermediate, you might just see what their understanding of it is. It can be very confusing. I too am going to the store. To get 2 bottles of beer. I've used 2, 3 different times, each of them spelled differently and with different meanings. And that is those 3 words can often be a bit confusing to a lower level students. So these are fun. You should probably spend some time with your advanced student. Even an intermediate student may have come across some of this. It would not be inappropriate to go over some of them with them. And also, with your students at a higher level, you can ask them to, keep their ears tuned for words that they're not familiar with in the course of the week, and write them down. And then to bring them up, in the early part of your lesson, to see, to ask questions about them, see if they can get it clarified. That can be very helpful to them. And lots of times they come, even if you don't say anything, they'll say, I heard somebody say, it didn't make any sense to me. Well, fill them in on the word. You have advanced, so we're talking a bit about the advanced student. And if you get an advanced student, you're going to wonder why he wants a tutor. Usually it's to fine tune their listening skills and or their speaking skills. They may just be looking for somebody to speak English too, because they don't get that opportunity very much. As I've said, most people go home to their families and they're speaking in their native language. Full day of listening to English is like, put a gun to my head and get it over with. I want to go home and speak real language, And I mean, they can really be wiped out by the time they go home. But of course, that's not doing anything for their English. So the opportunity to speak to you is very important. They might want to guide this along the way, find out what their interests are, have them bring a topic. You could read a book with them. One of our tutors is doing that their student and the tutor are reading 1 or 2 chapters a week. And I think they're doing it, they were doing it on a telephone for some reason. But in any event, not sure ideal, but then to come back together and talk about what they read and see if there were any questions or did the student understand what was going on in the chapters. At this level, you can do, many things that are really quite creative. Your student will have good understanding of any information that's given. You can follow directions and instructions and get involved in almost any kind of a conversation that's going on. They'll have the ability to do that. And when you're working with them, you're going to use normal vocabulary with your typical cadence and speed. You can speak the way I'm speaking at this level, at this speed, and they should be able to understand that without any problems. And you can feel free to use any of these homonyms or idioms. Students at this level, are familiar with a lot of the idioms. They may be using it as well themselves. They'll have good fluency of their speech, and they should have a good range of vocabulary. Nevertheless, you can, add some vocabulary, maybe along a particular topic that you may find that they're interested in or that they have questions about. You're always trying to build your students' vocabulary, though, because that's what it's all about. They're trying to learn English, be able to use it in many situations, and look like they know what they're talking about. Listen for pronunciation and correct word usage. And you're probably more likely to do correction at this level unless you find out that your student is really sensitive. Sometimes they'll say, tell me when I'm saying something wrong, or I haven't, put the accent on the right syllable or something like that. They want to know. Others may be a little bit more sensitive about. So again, you got to feel your way out. At a lower level, if your student is understandable, that's 3/4 of the battle. Can they go out and go to the store, go to the post office, go to the library and make themselves known? Maybe it's not perfect English. I think that was a point made in one of the previous videos, where she said, I don't correct their grammar or the structure of their sentences, or, even the accent that that's on words perhaps incorrectly. I just want them to have the confidence to go out and speak. And as I've said earlier on, our job, along with teaching English, is to give our students confidence. But when they get to know you, they're not going to be afraid to make mistakes. And, they both end up having a good laugh and saying, you don't really mean to say that. You really want to say it this way. Okay. But they get the confidence to be able to make mistakes in front of you and hey, Cindy, and then go forth to the public and speak as well as they can. Their reading comprehension is really ordinarily quite good. And they kind of like to do correction and editing on pieces that they might have, or you might do as an exercises. And I may have touched on this in the past. There are books here that will have, paragraphs on something, and it's the student's job to find what's wrong with it. And that's part of the exercise that comes along here. So they like to do it. It's good for them. And it really does something to strengthen their understanding and skills in English. And you can introduce all kinds of reading material at this point. We've said in the past that students might have trouble with magazines, a cereal box, even something on TV, just not catching all the fine nuances. I mean, we know something is funny in a commercial because we know the nuances to what they're saying, or, that somebody that is not from our culture, who does not know the language as well, would completely miss. Advanced student may be tuned into these things at this point. So there's all kinds of material that you can use and probably should use. Newspapers, flyers that you get in the mail, ads that you get in the mail. I know you get plenty of stuff in the mail that could be used for sessions such as these. Planet Fitness, all the gyms are putting out material right now. Nothing doesn't cost you anything. We'll be sure that nothing is really nothing. That's really free, because that's seldom the case. That they understand how some of these things are done, and then they find out they're caught in something that they didn't want to get involved in. But your advanced student is a lot less likely to have a problem with this, because their understanding of English is that much better. So it doesn't mean they don't get skunked along the way. We get skunked along the way, as you well know. Things that come across, they turn out to be a scam. To be careful. And for writing, these folks can usually write extensive essays. They would go on for pages and pages. We do have this yearly event where we ask our students to write about something. And it can literally be anything. The only time I think we ever focused on a topic was when Milford was celebrating its 325th anniversary or something. We asked the students to write about Milford. But outside of that, it's always wide open. And it's always easiest for somebody to write about what they know. Same as speaking about something that you know. That is always one of the easiest things to do. So writing, likewise, is something that lower level students will want to do. You can probably get an advanced student to get him to do it, but he could probably write about almost anything and do it well. Neither do we want a 10-page essay when this comes. I mean, something that's on one side, maybe two sides of a paper, if it's somebody who's really skilled and wants to do something along those lines, where a beginning student might just do a paragraph and an intermediate might do 2 paragraphs. We've had some wonderful work done by our folks here, and we're always proud of them, and they're proud of themselves for being able to do it. And then at our get together, which is usually I think we've moved it up to April these days, May or June. Used to be in September, but now we're using the Borough Community Center right down the street here to get our students and tutors together. Everybody brings a food from their country. And those of us from America, if we know our roots, there may be some particular food that we like, or if we just see ourselves as a mongrel in America, maybe pizza or, baked beans or some kind of classic American dish. But it's always fun and lots of good food, and volunteers are acknowledged for their contributions as well. And the students some of them get up to read their essays, and it's really a proud moment for them. And some of them are just scared to death, and the tutor goes up and kind of, stands behind them and props them up, literally sometimes. But most of them are just very proud of themselves that they can get up there. This is what I wrote. This is what I'm reading. And they just do a fine, fine job. It's a moment of pride for everybody. Then there's, let's see, you have in your manual a sample lesson. And if you've looked at that, you know that it's obviously that much more sophisticated than certainly a beginner, and for that matter, the intermediate. It's talking about the future and future progressive. And, starts with an article about presenting the future, talking about going to Mars, or transportation, I should say. This is not the Martian article. how people will be going to work, transportation in general. Then there's an article about leaving the earth. The sky is not the limit. And they're asked to correct this, use the correct form of the future progressive or the simple present in the paragraph that is there. And there's an editing exercise. And they're supposed to find, I think, 7 mistakes that were used and edit those correctly. Then there's some discussion about the future progressive, what it is as far as in statements, yes, no questions, short answers, and WH questions, how those are formulated. Future progressive or simple present tense is used to look at Aziz and Carol's schedules for tomorrow. You see Aziz is on one side, Carol is on the other, and what they're going to be doing every hour of the day. And underneath, the student needs to look at what each of these 2 people are doing and then fill in the appropriate tense down below. So while Aziz goes to the post office at 8 o'clock, Carol will be taking the car in for inspection. And Carol will be meeting with the boss while Aziz is faxing reports. So you need to fill in all those sentences underneath. And then we have the future progressive, affirmative, and negative statements. They ask you to complete the article with future progressive form of the verbs in parentheses. Choose affirmative or negative. And there may be a little flexibility in how you will fill these in. But again, a good exercise to see whether your student has comprehended the use of the future progressive tense. And the last little piece that is here, I don't know if you all have your books open to it or not, but this is the prince and the servant. I'm not sure who Caleb P. was who wrote it. It's about the prince, the servant and the prince were like 2 peas in the pod, even though the prince was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and the servant was born with chicken feed. The king had a very hard time with this because he was a fat cat. It was like a bolt from the blue when the prince asked the king to buy the servant new clothes. The king chewed up the scenery at that. The prince said that him and the servant were going to hit the road. The king was down in the mouth. He didn't know what to do. He felt like he was in the doghouse. Well, it just goes on and on. Anyway, it's a very cleverly written 2 paragraphs using every possible expression that you can think of. Your student may not know them all. Even you may not know them all. I don't know. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with any of these expressions. A fat cat. Do you know?
I know a few, but not everything.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, I wouldn't expect them to be known worldwide, but at least in this country, we would be using some of them. To be in the doghouse. I think I used that expression before, My husband goes, oh, he's going to be in the doghouse. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Where's he been? In that doghouse. What do you mean? Well, it was like a bolt from the blue. It was like a real surprise. Bolt from the blue. So it's a very cleverly written piece. And you might have fun, using this with your advanced student to see what he can understand from it or she can understand from it. And again, at the end here, we have advanced towards full production. You remember for the beginning student and the intermediate student, we had kind of a listing of the kinds of things that you may want to include when working with your student. And here there's an assessment piece, there's concepts, and consumer information. That could be helpful. And it might be something you would show to your students and say, Is there something here that you want to spend some time discussing? Because these are everyday kinds of things, getting a driver's license, paying taxes, managing finances, employment, health and safety, home and family. A number of different things there that they might really like. Also, it talks about music and poetry. And I know we've had a couple of tutors that have really taken advantage of that. They liked poetry and their student liked poetry. And so they, found some and worked with it. And actually, one of them was actually into writing poetry. I don't know whether it was the tutor or the student, but again, it was just something that was quite creative and they both enjoyed. And then there's some suggestions for helping students through the writing process. We touched before on writing a paragraph and what's involved, just to be sure that your student knows the basics of that. And then, here it starts to talk about the fact that students feel most comfortable writing about things that they know or are passionate about. And that they have the flexibility to do whatever they want, at least in terms of this project that I'm telling you about that will happen annually. You need to make them feel comfortable and allow the student to talk it out. I would really encourage that, even to plan it out, to write down words to be sure that, they've got as many words as possible for the same topic, so they're not saying the same thing over and over, but can find other words to express the same thing. Be aware that they may be concerned that their work may not be good enough. You do the best job you can. I will help you in the end, but you need to be careful about not getting too involved in it either. Sometimes, you want to make it absolutely perfect, and their expressions their writing may not be quite perfect. But it's okay as long as it's not, totally wrong. The construction might be a little bit awkward, especially at a lower level. You have to feel your way through that, and we have that, and we allow for it in the writing of it and printing of it. It's okay, and others reading it will understand. And I think we've already said to try to keep the length to something that's manageable. Beginning student, maybe not so much, a little bit more for an intermediate, and maybe an advanced student would write a page and a half or something. Not that they have to, but that they could. And then there's tips on how to simplify written material on the back of that. So that's the story, Glory. Any questions about anything? Okay, well, so you're going to go off and meet your students this week. I'm going to try to find somebody for Hamatsu. And this is such an interesting experiment with having somebody from another country to tutor across the miles. We're looking forward to this. I'm sure you are too. So we'll see what we can do with that. So good luck with meeting your students. Have confidence in yourselves. You can do it. And remember, we're all teachers. We've all taught one way or another, whether it's our kid brother or sister how to tie their shoes, or helped another student with their reading. We've all done it. If you make mistakes, you make mistakes. I'm not going to try that approach again. Or, hey, that was really good. I'll have to use that again. You feel your way.
Hello?
Don't forget that chapter 7, Eileen.
Yes, I'd like to know when
5 minutes. Oh, thank you.
I'd like to know when we can get their books.
We have them. I'm thinking about your student. I'm trying to think of your student. She might be okay in a 2. And again, with anything that you're doing, I've said a lot about this, but to always come in lower than higher. I guess I'll talk about that next week. You won't be insulting anybody by coming in a little lower than what they're capable of. And you don't want an advanced student to have a book 1, obviously, but somebody who is still learning but seems to have a fairly good grasp on the language. I think this 2 may not be too hard for your student. It's more fun to read than the first one. If you find her stumbling and having a hard time with it, then we could give you a 1. Or maybe we could give you 1 of each for the time being to see. Did you say you already started in a book 1? I'm sorry. No,
We did the first lesson. We did it together. It went fairly easily. We read it together.
Okay.
So, and I do have 1 and 2 from the library in Stratford. I have
Okay.
both.
That's right. They have them there.
Yes.
Why don't you move up a little bit further in your book 1, like 3 or 4 chapters, and see if she can do that easily.
Okay.
And then if she's stumbling, then we'll give you a book 1 for her and you can just go through it. If it's really easy, then go to a further lesson. Just be sure that she can do it. She's so quiet. Do you find her to be? I mean, I did on the phone.
She is a little, she
Little
is
shy,
quiet,
maybe.
very polite,
Yeah.
very friendly.
Yes.
But yes, she's quiet.
Yeah. So should just start off like that for another week yet
Okay.
and see how that goes. And then you can come in here and get the book for her at any time. Now next week we're only open from 9 to 12. No, that's this week. This week we're only from 9 to 12. Tuesday and Wednesday. Are we open Thursday? This week?
Yeah, just 9 to 12.
Yeah, just 9 to 12 and Thursday. And then the following week we'll be back to our usual time.
Then I'll be back.
And Tammy will be back. She's moving into an RV.
Okay.
And Jim, we'll just keep talking to your student for another week or so. This is nothing you have to jump into immediately.
Yeah.
Just try to get a feeling of how good he is.
He may have done some of these already, having been in training in the past. So that's what I figured. I'd try to figure out where he is.
Yeah, just
He may.
Yeah, just get a sense of how well he's speaking. Could always start him with a 2. And as I say, 2 is more fun than 1 because there's all different stories and they're funny and fun and all that kind of thing. But if they breeze right through them, then you want to go on to something a little bit more challenging. So don't get overly fixated on the book at this point. Let's just hope that as time goes on, the next couple of weeks, it'll become more clear.
Okay.
Okay. So your student is what, a high intermediate?
I would think so, but I'll know more on Thursday.
Yeah.
Certainly the emails that I've sent, she doesn't seem to have any trouble understanding them.
Okay, so good.
Reply in a pretty fast manner. So I think I'll know more on Thursday.
All right. Do you have any books with you, or?
I do have a copy of, let me see here. I've got a copy of the Oxford pictured.
Oh, yes, okay.
So I have a copy for a student. Should I be giving that to her?
No, they have to, you can't, we'll have some English dictionaries available as well that you can be getting. The Rotary does that for the 3rd grade students in the city, and we always get some leftovers. So they may, it might be something that they would like. You may also have to give a little lesson on using a dictionary.
Sure.
Many parts of the country, I mean, this had never occurred to me until just recently, but, many places, and I don't know what you have available, Matsu, in your country, whether a dictionary is something that students can readily access or use. So you may need to give a little lesson on how to use it.
Okay.
Which, as I said, I never thought about before. What's your experience with that, Matsu?
Usually what I do with them is we look if there's a particular word that we need to like for example a vocabulary word, we just look it up together on the internet.
Oh, okay. All right, that's the thought too. Yeah. I've been saying your name wrong, haven't I? You're too polite. I'm Satu.
It's okay.
Is that what I should be saying? I'm
Yes.
Satu. I'm so sorry. I'm just looking at this. It's like,
No problem.
I'm usually very good about this stuff. Anyway, I apologize.
No problem.
I'm Satu. Hard to break a habit. Okay, so we'll go forth, my friends, and we'll try to get something for you very soon. I'm Satu, and have you have a student. And you're saying you might even be interested in a lower level, huh? For the challenge of it all. Okay, well, we'll see. All right. Well, good luck, everybody. Thank you for your attention today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Bye.